Hello, everybody. This is the Mike Nelson Show, first show of 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully, you guys had a good holiday season. Make sure to subscribe to the channel right now if you haven't subscribed already. Today, I got a pretty cool guest. Got the band Twin Tribes. How you doing today, guys?
Hey, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no problem. So, give your name and instrument. That way, our listeners on the radio can know who they're listening to.
I'm Luis Navarro, and I sing, play guitar.
I'm Joel Nino Jr., and I play bass and backup vocals, and yeah, that's it. Keys.
All right, if you could each give like your musical journey, how it began. Maybe each of you can kind of talk to me about how you got into music and why you started playing music. Maybe your first instrument. Talk to us a little bit about that.
For me, I wanted to learn guitar because the band Kiss. My dad got me into Kiss when I was like super young, and the whole show, and the Ace Frehley, the lead guitarist, is what really inspired me to want to learn how to play guitar. And then eventually, after going through different bands and different genres, I ended up wanting to write and I guess pursue this new wave this new wave of artists with like 80s characteristics, and ever since then we've been writing like this genre, right? But I guess that's how it was for me.
Yeah, and I guess the way I got into music, I mean, I was fairly young. I remember like a core memory, like elementary, where somebody came in, probably some band director from middle school, and they're like, "Here's all these different mouthpieces." And I was like, "I just want to play the drums, man." And so I just wanted to play the drums, but they're like, "No, we have too many drummers. Here, try this mouthpiece." It was a tuba mouthpiece, and he's like, "Oh, you did great. So you're gonna be a tuba player, next year when you get into middle school." And I was like, "Okay." So basically, that's how it went. And then from tuba, they were like, "Hey, like you play tuba really well. Here's a book. Learn the bass guitar. You're gonna be in the jazz band." And so that's how I started learning how to play bass and joined bands in high school, and played concerts, tuba and bass in the jazz band, all up until my first year in college. And yeah, here we are.
It's crazy how like the teacher could have just told you, "Hey, here's a clarinet."
Yeah,
Here's
yeah.
anything.
Yeah, that's how it was. Yeah, here's a book, pick it up, learn it, and we'll
Figure
see
it
you.
out.
Yeah, figure it out. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Now, what were some of the maybe influences, like maybe a record or a song, or maybe bands that you were listening to growing up? Maybe artists that kind of got you into music. Who were those artists that formed you?
Man, there's so many. Like I already said, Kiss, one of my favorite bands. Aside from that, a lot of rock en español, so Caifanes, Soda Stereo, Héroes del Silencio, and aside from that, of course, like The Cure and New Order, Depeche Mode, uh, new ones as well. There's just so many.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like for me, Bowie's Low, and weirdly enough, like the Labyrinth soundtrack, because I was like such a huge Labyrinth fan. So of course he sang in many of those songs. So or all of them basically, besides the orchestra stuff. But yeah, those are the things that kind of got me into that whole thing.
Now, speaking about rock en español, you guys have covered, of course, Lobo en Paris, right, from La Unión. Talk to me about how maybe that song or that genre of music really has influenced Twin Tribes.
Yeah, totally. And it's crazy. Like a lot of people that are into rock en español are also into like dark wave or into post punk. There's a lot of similarities in rock en español with new wave and dark wave. But we were just thinking of like, man, like we really want to do a song that represents that, all of the fans, all of the Latino fans, people that are into rock en español in general. And after just throwing some names out there, we decided on Lobo Hombre en Paris. It's just a classic, and we played it for the first time in, what was it, Garden Grove in California?
Yeah, Garden Grove.
I think we played it in Garden Grove, and then after that we played it in uh, L.A. in Leroy Theater, in San Diego. And those first couple of times, the reactions were crazy. It was just crazy.
And you don't expect it to, like, I mean, there's a big Latino population in that area, the LA, Garden Grove, and California in general, but you take it into Ohio maybe, and then you don't expect such a big response, but it does, and it's just a beautiful thing because, of course, we're Hispanos, Latinos, whatever have you, we're everywhere.
Exactly.
Now, does that prove that kind of like music doesn't have like boundaries? You would say, right? There's no borders to music. Is that you would agree with that? It could be kind of enjoyed by anybody around the world.
Oh, totally.
Absolutely. And even in our travels, when we've traveled to Europe, like we play our song Fantasmas, and they're singing the words like in Spanish over there, and it's a really cool thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just like, we're able to listen to European bands, just like, She Passed Away or Lebanon Hanover, bands with other languages, enjoy it just as well.
So how did the Twin Tribes project begin? What is like the story behind the whole project beginning a few years back?
We started writing in the summer of 2017. So a little before that, I just had started listening to newer artists that all were like, I guess, inspired by similar I don't know, 80s bands. So I remember listening to Trap Majesty and Choir Boy, and it just really caught my attention, and started writing a couple of demos. And I think Joel and I were traveling to Austin, or from Austin, and I showed him some of the demos in the drive, and I asked him if he was down, and after that we basically got together and wrote like the entire first album, like in the next 2 months or so.
Now, how was it like in the Texas scene back in those days? Has it changed a bit, or do you think it's how was it like kind of coming up in that scene?
I don't know, man. Like it seems like it's been growing everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, not just Texas. Like I think it's seen the dark underground scene has seemed like just like this. I guess some people call it revival or resurgence. It's always been there. Of course, since the '80s. But I guess in Texas, where we're from, it wasn't as prevalent. When we first started, like we would play maybe some DJ nights they're doing '80s, and they're like, hey, like, can we open for the DJ or whatever? So we'd play, and then the DJ would get up, and we did that a couple of times here where we're from in Brownsville. But really, the bigger scene was in San Antonio, and so we would travel like 4 hours just to get to like a show. And even then, we opened for DJs there because again, there's some big DJ events that they have, like 1313, different San Antonio events that were pretty big, and so that's how we did it. But even back when we started, there was those Texas bands that were kind of like coming up as well. I think Chris Mackey was from Austin. And he's been big in the industrial scene for a long time, just to name one. But yeah.
Now, you would say like in Brownsville, Texas, then what is like the main kind of music there? It's not really dark wave. Then what would be kind of the music that's popular there?
Man, there's very, very few shows, but whenever there are some shows, it's usually, I guess, a mix of genres. Like the bands are like, you have an indie band, and then you have like, I don't know, grunge band, or I don't know,
Punk band.
punk
Punk's
band.
really big.
Yeah.
Harlingen is which is like maybe 30 minutes from here. It's really big with the punk community. But I mean, just in general, like the masses, like Tejano and like that kind of stuff is pretty, I would say, pretty big down here. Reggaeton, right?
Yeah.
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 Now, what made you guys get into the dark wave genre? Why didn't you guys like play another genre of music? What specifically drew you to that kind of music to make this project?
Um, I guess to me, it's a combination of things like um, the tone in the guitars. It's very peculiar chorus, very chorus driven, very heavy reverb. All of that, like Johnny Marr from the Smiths, his guitar tone is like a huge influence. So a huge influence. I'm sorry. So just that in general, like the tone in the guitar, the upbeat in the music. I don't know what you think.
I mean, and then being a kid of the '80s, like that nostalgia effect, you can't deny it, right? There's just something about it that's very particular. You hear a song, and you know it's the '80s. You hear Tears for Fears, you hear Depeche Mode, and you're like, okay, that's from the '80s, like, and so yeah, that nostalgia hit. Like it's just something that's really cool and really awesome to feel and be able to write still in 2024.
Yeah.
So, like Joel mentioned, Tears for Fears. How was it like sharing the stage with them at the Darker Waves Festival a few months back here in Huntington Beach?
It was amazing. It was probably the coolest festival, or one of the coolest, biggest festivals that we've ever played. So it was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's like it's a dream, like Tears for Fears, Devo,
New Order.
New Order. Uh, I mean, just to name three, like that lineup was insanity, and being able to say that, hey, we were part of it, right? When I'm old, and be like, hey, son, I used to be, look at your dad. Dad did this back in the day. It's like, yeah, sure, dad, whatever. But we have that. Like that's something that nobody can take away from us now.
Now, what was it like finally getting to make that first record, Shadows, back when it was recorded?
Recording Shadows was really cool because we were still finding our sound, so it was just like a search, and it took a while to record. So for like maybe I don't know 2 months, 2.5 months, or like somewhere around there, we were going to the studio like every weekend, and that's like driving an hour away. So we were there all Saturday or every weekend, like something like that, right?
Yeah.
So we were like just listening to snares for hours and hours, and it's exhausting. But
Yeah.
but it was a search, and once we found what we were looking for, more or less, things got so they started flowing, went by quicker. But yeah, it was very unique.
Yeah, and I'll shout out our recording engineer slash producer Alan Michael. Like I think it was very innocent. Like we were all kind of learning together. Like him recording as well. Like he had like this tape machine that he had just gotten. Like that we recorded to tape. I think we recorded
Yeah,
to tape.
yeah, it was all analog.
It was all analog, and so like it was just a learning experience. It was our first album together, and writing that music together. So it was just very innocent, and there was no expectations. We were just kind of writing things that we wanted to listen to, and things that kind of like hit our hearts, and yeah, that's how Shadows was born.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how much do you think the band has progressed since then? It seems like with every album, the band is kind of changing. You guys are still, of course, Twin Tribes, but there's always a little bit I notice in every album that's a little bit different from that first record. But is that intentional, or you think just musically you guys have just grown so much in the last few years?
Yeah, no, like you said, every record we try to, every record is unique. And um, every time we release a new album, it's like, us experimenting with newer sounds, keeping things fresh on our end. And, uh, it's a constant, it's like a constant path that we're always, trying to evolve sonically.
Yeah, every record's like a child, right? Like it's part of your DNA, but very uniquely its own. And so yeah, it is by something that we kind of pride ourselves in, like because we don't want to get bored either. Like, we want to hear something fresh, and that's just like the audience. The audience wants to hear something fresh, but still familiar as far as like, oh, that's Twin Tribes. But we're already thinking about like the next album, how we're gonna change it up, what's gonna be different in the next album. Like we're super excited about it, but bringing it back to right now, yeah, like it's a cool thing that you notice that it's a little different every single time we put something on record.
Now, when you guys record albums, do you guys kind of have like a set songs that you're going to have on this album, or do you guys kind of use leftovers from previous sessions, or is it always kind of just you guys get it all out there for everybody to hear?
I think it's a mix of both. There's been albums where it's all right. We're gonna write this many songs, but you know what? This song didn't make it at the end. And we've cut songs before where there's albums where a song makes it just
Right at the end.
right at the end of panzazo. But yeah, and we've also used ideas that didn't make the album, and just kind of mess with them and change them up to see if they fit the new album. We've done a little bit of all of that.
Yeah, I think with Pendulum, like we had some of that because when we were writing Ceremony, man, we were just like, just whipping them out, like just ideas, and of course, not all of them made it onto that album. And yeah, so we would go back and like, hey man, like check this out. And Luis, like, I don't know when it was, we were on tour, and he's like, dude, check this out. And he played it for me. I forgot what song it was. I think it was from this album. I think it was Sanctuary, and it was just like, dude, we've got to like finish that song. And so we're here like 4 years later from when we initially recorded that demo, finishing the song. So
yeah, and several songs from Pendulum are like that.
Yeah,
they're ideas that we had on like the voice recorder on the phone from like 2018.
Yeah.
So it's just like revisiting some old songs and then just changing them up, and yeah, it's something like that.
Now, with the writing process for Twin Tribes, is it usually a collaborative effort, or do you guys kind of write things separately?
Yeah, no, everything that we do is a collaborative effort. We'll start like coming up with a riff or an idea, and then just email it to each other, and then we'll start just going back and forth with ideas.
Yeah, completely. That's how it is, right? It'll be his riff, or it'll be lyrics, or what have you. Like we're going back and forth. And honestly, most of Pendulum we wrote online. Like we had like this folder, and we threw lyrics in there, we threw song titles in there, we threw all of the riffs and drum beats and stuff like that, and we were just going back and forth, and we'll message each other on Messenger or whatever, and be like, hey, try this voice message, and that's really how it came together.
Now, with the Twin Tribes, are you guys what do you guys, I know of course a lot of people try to categorize bands into genres, but do you guys ever worry about that, or do you guys never really think about genres when you're making music?
I mean, I guess not really. I feel like the music that we make is it's Twin Tribes, and I think for the most part, I want to say that if you want to categorize it, it would fall into one same genre. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'd be like, what, dark wave, post punk? I mean, that's what we've called ourselves since the beginning. Like dark wave, post punk, I think is a broad enough genre.
Yes, broad.
Yeah. After that, it's up to you. You want to call us goth, you can call us goth. You want to call us new wave, call us new wave. Whatever. To us, it doesn't matter. It's not like we're like here in the studio like, that's not dark enough, we need it darker, right? Yeah, it's just something that we write what we want to hear, and what we want to put out there.
Have you guys ever explored like other genres you guys have ever thought of doing with this project?
I don't know, not with this project, right? I mean, we both have been in like different bands of different genres, but I feel like here it's just it's all like, all right, we want to go in this direction. Next album we go in this direction, but I guess we haven't really thought of doing anything too crazy.
Yeah, it's like Twin Tribes is very much like an island, and so we leave it there, and we got to go back and revisit it. That's where we go. Well, people have remixed our songs and made them like kind of different, and that's always fun to hear. Like one of our albums, Alters, like we had a bunch of friends in the scene, and some people also that we regard highly. remix some of our songs, and I thought that was cool because then you could see like all these different genres, like, but also Twin Tribes. We don't necessarily have to do it. Somebody else can kind of do it for us.
Right.
Now, with the project Twin Tribes, you guys of course started this 7 years ago. Did you envision it getting this big, like this fast? I mean, with the way it's going with the band, and of course you guys have toured the world, and you guys are having a lot of success here the last few years. Have you envisioned that success when it started out?
No, no, not at all, not at all. Yeah. When we were writing Shadows, we were just like, yeah, let's just put this out to a tape, to a cassette, that we're investing in ourselves, and that's it. People want to buy it, that's cool. If not, that's it. That was the only thing that we had in mind.
Yeah, I mean, we had 9 to 5s, man. We were working, and of course we did Shadows on our spare time, on our weekends. And when we toured, we would tour when we weren't working. So basically, all our vacations, like, we're out on tour, right? And so we did that for what, a good
3 years,
3 years, and then we were, as the band grew, we were able to invest a little bit more time and into the band, and we're just very lucky. I think it's just something that it's a beautiful thing, unexpected, but we've worked hard to get here too. It's not something that kind of like just happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're happy that it's led us to this, and then hopefully it leads us to bigger things.
So in a way, Twin Tribes could have been just like a 1 album project. Then that was something that could have happened.
It could have.
Yeah, it could have. It could have. We would have stopped there, right?
Yeah. In an alternate universe,
yeah,
we became accountants.
Now, where do you gather inspiration for your lyrics? Like, is there different? What sources do you gather inspiration to write your songs, and even musically? How do you like make that emotional sound? How do you connect with the music, the instruments that you're playing? Where do you grab inspiration?
I think that we find inspiration anywhere. Like, at first for Shadows, it came from movies like The Dark Crystal, like Labyrinth. Yeah, we were just what was I saying?
The Hunger.
Oh yeah, The Hunger, David Bowie. Yeah, like, we were just inspired by these stories, and the aesthetic as well. And it like I feel like, even now, like, if I listen to a new song or a new artist, like, it will, like, give me drive and motivation. Like, if it's really good, like, that's awesome, man. Like, I want to go write some stuff too. It'll give you that creativity and that push.
Yeah, and inspiration can strike from anywhere, right? As you mentioned, movies, like, that's one of those things. Like, if I hear something, like if I'm watching a movie or a TV show and I hear something, or like some words that are like put together, and I'm like, hey, I like that, I'll just write it down immediately, right? And I'll come back to it whenever we start writing. Or just even life experiences. Of course, life experiences. When you hear a ceremony, that is really where we were at that point in our lives, as opposed to Shadows, where we were writing stories and stuff like that and basing it off of movies. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, with inspiration, you can't hinder it. You just gotta let it come, and it's gonna come from anywhere. You just gotta keep your eyes and your ears open for it.
Now let's go back to the Ceremony album. The first track I ever heard from the band was "The River." Talk to me a little bit about that song. I think a lot of Twin Tribes fans out there, are one of the most popular tracks of the band. Talk to me a little bit about that song.
That song, I think it just we wrote it in a warehouse where we were practicing at the time, and we used the 707, the Roland 707 drum machine. We just put that kick and snare on loop for a while, so it was just going for a while, over and over. And I had the guitar riff already in mind, and I was playing. Joel came in with the bass right away. And then in that song, I think it was born like kind of like a jam. It started just in the jam, and then we already knew like half of the song just jamming there.
One of the rare jam songs that we've made, but it worked out pretty well. It is one of, yeah, when you write an album, you never know what's gonna take off, what people are gonna kind of zone in on and say like this is like the one, this is the song. And that's one of those, like it kind of just like, wow, people really like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, going back to that point, like when you write an album, then you guys don't really have like a set like idea, like this is going to be our lead single or anything. You guys just kind of write all the songs and then just let people. That's kind of how you guys do music then.
Yeah, well, once we finish the album, we'll say, okay, so after listening, we will have an idea of what we want to be the singles, right? And
But after writing the whole album, right? Not at the beginning.
after, yeah,
Yeah.
we've never really write a song like with the intent, all right, let's write the next single. It's just we write a song and it comes out the way it comes out, and then sometimes it'll be a single and sometimes it won't, you know.
So all right, guys, this is the hit right here. I'm playing it right now. You know, yeah, that's great.
Now with the new album Pendulum, you guys have released a couple singles. Talk to me about what's going on with the album, and next week, pretty big week for you guys, right?
Yeah, it's the album is going to be released pretty soon. So we have two album release shows that are going to accompany the release of the album as well, which is going to be the 25th and 26th. But yeah, it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, and I think that whole week is going to be filled with like events. Like we have the night 1 and night 2 in Pomona, which is the 25th and the 26th, and then we have two in-store records signings that we're going to be there. I think a block away at Zoinks, and then another one in Rancho Cucamonga. I love saying that city name. Rancho Cucamonga with oh my gosh, Doctor Strange Records. So we have those two events. We have something else up our sleeve. We'll probably announce next week at the beginning of the week. So that's going to be cool. But anyways, that whole week's jam packed, and we're excited for the release.
So those two shows are you guys will be playing the whole album then live, basically, right?
Basically, and it's a combination of old and new.
Yeah, we fans still want to hear like those ones that they want to hear, the river or Fantasmas or whatever. But it is we made what we feel is like the perfect set list for this whole entire year. So it's gonna be fun to play it.
Now, what's the process of creating a set list, for a band in your genre? Of course, it differs, with every genre. But do you think, like, when you're creating a set list or a show, how is the process like for your genre doing that?
I guess you want to know what you want to do first, right? Because I think that we've done set lists where there's like a slow song in the middle or something like that. But yeah, I guess what you really want the crowd to be vibing to, how you want that process to go, because some of your songs have a slower BPM, some of them might be faster, so you have to keep this in mind. But for this one, it's just a banger after banger.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But we very much put the set list together with intent. Like, where do we want to lead the crowd? At what point do we want to get them to this point, and then okay, let's bring it down with something slower. We're always very aware of that stuff, and of course, it also depends on the show. Like when it comes to festivals, you're just like boom, boom. It's just we're gonna just hit them with a 1-2 and keep going from there.
Now, what is 2024 going to look like for the band? In the next for what is the rest of the year going to kind of look like for the band?
Just a lot of shows, and we're gonna be touring behind the album, so we're gonna be everywhere.
Yeah, heavy touring. Like we've got the West Coast already lined up. We've got announcements all in line for like the East Coast, the Midwest, Europe. We already announced Latin America. So yeah, we're gonna be out there. If you're gonna catch us, we're gonna come around probably just once, and then we'll see you in 2025. So if you have a chance to go out to one of our shows, we'd love to have you.
Now, you guys already have ideas in for the next record. Is that kind of the plan? You guys are already kind of thinking of recording another album after all these touring plans wrap up?
Yeah, that's the idea. Once we finish touring next year, hopefully we find some time to go to the studio and work on the next album.
Yeah, it's been how many years since Ceremony? Like
2019, December 2019.
So like 4 or 5 years since Ceremony. And I think Shadows and Ceremony were back to back. It's like 1 year. Like here's Shadows, here's Ceremony. I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen, but you know that's what the intent is like for us. Like we're very inspired right now, and we really want to continue to write and make another album. And so we're excited.
All right, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Hey,
I appreciate you, Mike. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to subscribe to the channel and have a good day, everybody.